Okay. Alright, everybody. Here's how this is going to work. I'm going to need to teach you some way, somehow, throughout this entirety of Marking Period 4. So I'm deciding to do so partially through things like this. So as you can see right here, I've got absolutely no text color. So we're going to go through the Greek mythology, otherwise known as... Oh, God, what have I done? You see, here's the thing. Before we start anywhere else, we have to start with the concept that mythology, standardly, is how the world works. Do you get it? Like, it's every form of mythology. There are so many religions all over this country, much less all over this world, that have a different idea of how the world began. We get kind of stuck in our knowledge of Judeo-Christian belief and scientific belief. That being that one God created everything, or one freak accident created everything. Both are pretty cool in their own ways. But that just completely undermines all of the rest of the versions of realities. Like, for example, the Hindu belief that we started off as a giant egg. And that's pretty sweet. So instead, how about this? Here's what we know. Question mark? Because we don't really know anything. Especially when it comes to this topic. First things first. We are here. Cool. That's pretty sweet. And at one point, we weren't here. That's pretty much part 2 of our knowledge of mythology. We are here, and at a time, we weren't. And the reason why that's important is very simple. Everything of what happened between these two, between them, is so argued and fought that we have major wars over what's correct, and we murder a lot of people about it. So, what do you need to know? What do we all need to know about Greek mythology? Because this is, after all, the Greek myth. Well, Greek mythology does something different than Judeo-Christian. Judeo-Christian, as well as Muslim religion, as well as Islamic faith, all creates this concept of a one God, almighty, maker of heaven and earth. In Greek mythology, it's more along the lines of all of their gods. Entirely. All of their gods, and there are a lot of them. At some points later on in the future, like points when we don't talk about it anymore, there are gods of like very tiny random things that people just keep adding and adding and adding and adding. And when a pantheon, we'll talk about that's what this is called, a Greek pantheon, which is a collection of gods. When it becomes too thinned out is when the religion kind of starts dying. So Greek mythology, all of their gods are made to be human. Now, if that might not make sense to some of you guys, but what that means is that they all have problems. And not only do they all have problems, they make so many mistakes. But I guess that we should probably start with one specific thing, and if we're going to start with one specific thing, we have to talk about the gods that were there before our major Greek gods. Because if we just go into Zeus and all the things that you've read in Percy Jackson, or in all the things that you've watched in movies, or either with all the things that you've gotten used to from like from Assassin's Creed, you'll eventually just go a little bit crazy. So instead, here's what we're going to do. We're going to start off with how Greek myth from Ovid and from different folklores really start out. And for that, we have to go back to the point where there is nothing. That's it. Just nothing. And trucks that go by my apartment. When it starts, there is nothing. And then after that nothing, springing out of that nothing, which, by the way, that nothing, it has a name. It's called chaos. This giant bit of nonsense nothingness. What ends up happening is that first, instantaneously, out of nothingness, comes... Oh, the Earth. Well, not exactly the Earth. Her name's Gaia. Gaia is the mother of all things. We start out with Gaia coming out of the void of chaos. And with her also emerges some divine beings that have no visual representation. Eros, the concept of love. The abyss, also known through other versions of Greek mythology as Tartarus. It is just the deepest, darkest pit of existence, the darker spots inside of chaos. And Erebus. But then eventually Gaia, or Earth, or whatever you want to call her, accidentally gives birth to Uranus. Wait. Not that. That's just Uranus. No, not this guy. This guy's just that's the planet. It's actually named after him. So we go back to Gaia, and she just makes Uranus. There we go. Look at this dude. This looks more like what we'd imagine. And Uranus, or Uranus, both are correct, is the sky. That's that guy. He looks kind of like you'd expect the Judeo-Christian god to look. Giant with a big beard and long hair. Uranus is going to create with Gaia something very, very important. And when he does, it's going to be kind of crazy. You see, technically Gaia is his mother. You'll get used to this. I'm already sorry. Greek mythology has all of the makings of just the worst family drama of all time. So Uranus, the sky, and Gaia, the planet Earth, come together, get it, literally like they're next to each other, and then they just mush, and when they come apart, they create these guys. These guys are the Titans. And they're pretty awesome, but they don't really last all that long. So you have Themis, who is the goddess of who is the Titan of good counsel and divine law. I just started with Themis. Yeah, that's it. Themis. You've got Mnemosyne, which is the goddess of, I believe, memory. Yes, because she's thinking. See? She's thinking. Then you have Hyperion, who is, I believe, the sun itself. Yes, once again, the sun itself. Then you have Theia, and Theia is the moon. I'm sorry, no, not the moon. It's very weird. It's talking about the concept of, she is the wife of Hyperion, and they together are the parents of Helios and Selene and Eos, which is the sun, the moon, and dawn, because Greek myth had dawn as a concept. Crius, over here, is not as important as all of the rest of her siblings, thus the reason why she's just kind of there. Then you have Seos, Phoebe, Kronos, and Rhea. These guys get a little bit more important when it comes down to the concept of history for us. We'll be talking about them a lot more as we go forward. But how do I put this? Forget about Zeus. He's never really gonna come up. I wish he would, but he's not going to. He's kind of like light, but he's not light. Like Phoebe is actually shining radiance. She's pretty awesome. But he's just kind of like slight gleam, bedazzlement. He doesn't really do much though, unfortunately. He just kind of sits there. That's the reason why he's got this little frowny face. Then you've got Kronos, god of time, and Rhea, goddess of earth. I'm sorry, not goddess. Titan of time and Titan of earth. We'll get back to them in a second. Then you have Oceanus. Guess what he creates? Just putting it out there. Thetis, who is the wife of Oceanus, and she is a river god. She's the mother of the river gods. She is notice how she has a pail of water, and she looks like she has something similar going on to what's going on over here with Oceanus. And then all of them, after going through all of these people, you have the least godly looking with Aeopus. Aeopus is, of course, just going to be the... he's just... I know I keep stopping and sighing, because when it comes down to it, he's just kind of like a dude. There's no other way of putting it. He's just like a normal guy. No one really has big issues with him. He's just kind of like over here when it comes to the Titans. Eventually, he's going to have a son. His sons will be immensely important. We'll be talking about them consistently. But like, he's just there. We also don't talk about whether or not or how he has children. He just kind of has one. Like, he just kind of comes up with, I'm going to have a kid. And then he has a kid. And his kid's really important. But the thing that I want to and need to go back to before we stop for today, our little history lesson, is this. These two, you can kind of tell from Rhea's face, these two are going to go through some stuff. Cronus and Rhea are going to be the parents of the entire Greek pantheon. Well, not the entire Greek pantheon, just our main players. This is going to be the father. Oh, sorry. No one cares about you, light beams. This is going to be the god, the god parents of Zeus, Aphrodite, Hestia, Hera, all of our main players. And she's going to have to deal with so much stuff because this guy is a giant jerk. Yeah, trying to write without a regular, there we go, regular mouse is not great. He is a giant jerk. There's no other way to put it. We'll deal with him later. But yeah, so that is going to be our first background on mythology and background on these big titans of this myth, because everything starts somewhere. And I think that in the comment section of your assignment, do me a favor. Just kind of type out, Aeopus is a cool guy. Because if not for him, we wouldn't have fire. He's just this. He's a cool guy. Aeopus, cool guy. That's what you have to put in. This is going up at 1:30 for the 7th grade on Monday, April 6th. So, welcome to Marking Period 4.